So first of all, how do I get on? How do you get on to Webforms 2019? Well, if you're using currently Webforms as it stands, just get on the way that you used to get on. No problem. You can either do that directly through Realtor Link or go onto Stratus. So most of us do log into our MLSs in order to get on. If you're a Hamilton board member, you'd be going into your matrix system. So because I have Stratus, which is Treb, and I don't have Matrix, I'm going to go through Stratus. Matrix, you would just log in as you would normally do through Matrix. So that's not a hard thing to do if you're part of that system. So let me get my authenticator out and log in. Okay, Stratus, when you first log in, takes you to a home screen. With that home screen, there we go. With that home screen, you have two options on the right-hand side. Either go to Instanet Authentisign or Webforms. Again, two separate systems, although they're the same product, okay? Webforms is what we're gonna do today. So we're gonna click on Webforms. And anybody who's using Webforms currently knows that there is the legacy version currently that pops up, which is the old version. Legacy means old. And then, then you've got switch to Webforms 2019 at the top. And that's what we're going to do. As of January 1st, Webforms does not disappear. It'll just automatically go into Webforms 2019, which they'll probably call it Webforms 2020. I'd imagine they wouldn't want to call it 2019 anymore. It'll just be called Webforms. When you log into Webforms, the first thing that will come up is a member dashboard. This is quick links. This is a dashboard where you can quickly access different things. Yours might possibly look slightly different, and you know the reason being is they can change, and so can I. I can change what everybody has as a default. Okay, but if you're already signed in, it's never going to default to the default anymore. It's going to be the way you have it set up, and you're able to manipulate in the way you have it set up by unlocking the screen at the top right-hand side and moving things around or adding new things to your dashboard. Currently, unfortunately, and I have switched this as a default, but in the past, they had templates as one of the quick links. And we have built out your templates for you with regards to any transactions. So rather than having templates on here, if you happen to see templates, just delete it. Okay, so templates, and I'm going to show you what it kind of look like. Like you can drag this over, and then it'll show up. Oh, where'd it go? Well, probably down to the bottom. Hold on. Oh, it went over here, way over to the right-hand side. So yeah, it may say create a template. You don't want to create templates. Templates, if you create them, are going to be a nightmare for you. We don't want to do that. We've done it all for you, so I'm going to show you. So just exit out of there. So yes, you can change the way it looks, but I would suggest just kind of keeping it the way you have it. Just make sure templates aren't there. So the first two things you're going to learn with the system is, and there's the two main things you're going to want to do with TransactionDesk as well as Authentisign, is the fact that's the two systems you want to be using, TransactionDesk and Authentisign. So over on the left-hand side, there's we call it a hamburger icon because it looks like a hamburger. So if you click on that, it tells you all the different things you have on the side. If you just learn the first one, which is transactions, and the second one, which is Authentisign, you're good to go for the most part. Okay. When I say for the most part, let's say you want to sign a waiver and you just want to print one form. So some people want to jump on there and just find a form and print it. I'm looking to print an application for a lease. So you could just go into forms if you want to do and just print a quick form. But for the most part, we're either creating a transaction or we're doing a signing. So the first thing we're going to pop into, and the thing that we're going to go on to today, is transactions. Okay. So as you can see, even just so you know, on the member dashboard, you can go into transactions just by hitting transactions. That's another way you can get in there. Or if you've had one open in the past, it might show up here. Or if you just want a quick connect, you can just create one from your dashboard as well. If you click on the actual transaction area, it'll bring up a list of transactions that you've done in the past. Okay. Yours is going to be blank if you've used it for the first time. Yours won't have any. Okay. But these are all the transactions you've done. If you're going to add a new transaction, you're going to do that over here. You're going to add a new transaction. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to create a transaction. It can be and I'm going to show you the different options. So let's do that. Let's just hit add. Okay, and it's going to ask you, well, what is it? What is this? An offer? Is this a purchase? Is this a listing? You know, what are you doing? So let's do a purchase, and I'm going to actually choose a property that is on our board, and this works for the any board across Canada and Korea, which is amazing. That's one of the advantages to using web forms over the TREB system, is the fact that if this is on a Kawartha board, this is on the BC board, it doesn't matter the board. We can now pull in any listing from any board across Canada and get the information from it. So it's great. But we happen to know a listing is in TREB. So I'm going to quickly go over and pick a listing that we're going to do an offer in on today. So obviously, if you're going to do an offer, you would probably know the property, but I'm going to pick one instead. Let's just see. Let's go into the updates and new market and pick a freehold. We're just going to go a standard freehold listing here. Maybe this one on Lamar for $789. Okay, this is the property we're going to do the offer on. I just want the MLS number. So I'm going to copy that MLS number. Okay. Then I'm going to go back into web forms. And it was Lamar. What was the number again? 1022 Lamar. So I'm going to go purchase 1022 Lamar. The reason why I want to put purchase, I typically like to make sure that I tell the system, as well as just for my own reference, what I'm doing. Like, this is a purchase, right? This is not a listing. This is not. So you're going to have a lot of transactions eventually. You're doing lots of business, making lots of money. You want to be able to quickly go in and see where your listings are or your purchases are, because a listing is also a transaction. And I'm going to show you a brief overview how to do a listing as well. But this is a purchase of 1022 Lamar. I got to choose a template. These are our listing templates. There's a pre-construction template and all our purchase templates. Because this is a purchase, it's a residential freehold. It's not a condo, right? It's not a lease. It's not an assignment. It's not a commercial condominium. We've got all the templates in here. Okay. Any problems with any of these templates, you email me, because I created every single one of them. Okay. Actually, I should say Stephanie also helped me with it. So Stephanie also created some of them for me. So purchase of the residential freehold is what I want to call it, or the template I want to use. The import data, these are all the boards. And actually, it looks like they gave us everything in Ontario. So I'd say Canada, just, yeah, they've done it by province. So somebody's question is, did you just have Toronto? So it's a great question. So I'll let everybody know. If you don't have anything other than Toronto, or be the only scenario, you've clicked on Authentisign. Instanet Authenticate through the Stratus. You're in Stratus right now. So you'll need to exit and log out of Stratus or this system, and then make sure you click in through Webforms 2019. Yeah. And you. On Stratus. Yeah, Leah's going to help. Because that is a confusion. We have two systems. One is TREB, one is Webforms. Webforms will have all the templates, or import data from all the boards. So we're going to choose the Toronto board, and we're going to put in the MLS data number. Okay, we are the cooperating salesperson. Okay, we're not the listing salesperson. If we happen to be the listing salesperson, then we can say that we're both, right? So both the listing and the purchase agent, or we're neither. Let's say, I don't know necessarily why I'd use neither, but anyway, we're the cooperating salesperson. It needs to know that. Okay, and then I'm going to say that I'm going to use the wizard. The wizard takes me on a 5-step process of putting this offer together. So I do want to use the wizard and just hit create. What it's doing now is it's populating all the forms and information from the MLS listing as to who is who. So in this case, it's a residential sale. This is step 1 of 5, just so you know, it says step 1 of 5. we're in the transaction now. It's added it. This is the name of our transaction kit. It's purchase of 22 to Lamar. There's our listing information. It's even got where it's located, and you can view it on a map. And we're in step 1 of 5. We have 5 steps to do here. So what I'm going to do is just verify some of this information. That's the street name, that's the city, et cetera, property type. I mean, I could put that as a residential. I could put in certain things that didn't get brought in, okay, such as property width. You know, if I enter that here, I won't have to enter it on the offer. So if you go back to the listing, it's 60 by 203.36. So it's 60 by 203.6 feet. Now, if I left that blank, don't worry, you can enter it in later. You can do it on the offer, but I like to sort of enter in things that I know that are brought over. The purchase price is actually the offer price, just so you know. The purchase information, we're putting a purchase on it, so we're going to put an offer in at 700,000. It doesn't take, if I put, for example, 700, comma, it doesn't allow me to do that. So deposit, let's say we've decided on a $10,000 deposit. Again, you don't have to put this information in. You can just populate your form without it if you don't know the purchase price, but I'm just going to show you if you do enter it in, it will actually be put into the offer. The other stuff that gets put in, for example, present use is residential, like that gets brought in. Inclusions, exclusions also get brought in. So if you do add them, they'll come into your offer. So you can go over and put this stuff in if you want to. One of the things that I don't like is the fact it brings, like, I mean, your ELFs, what does that really mean? Electric light fixtures, right? And ceiling fans. So that's fine. Most window coverings. I don't like that either. No listing should say most of anything because you want to define clearly of what you're getting. So I would take that out. But I might actually say all blinds and window coverings. But you choose to what you want to do. I mean, this is just a quick way to cut and paste if you'd like to do it that way, or put nothing in there at all. It's up to you. Okay. So currently there are some small issues with the way that they put it in there, but you don't want to forget anything either. So there's 3 window air conditionings included in this. That's nice. Very nice. Anyway, so that's how you can do that. You can put exclusions, you can put rental items, you can put the fact that if there's a Schedule B, and in this case, what does it say in the listing? It doesn't say Schedule B. Let me just see if it's attached to the listing. Just the offer summary. So there is no Schedule B currently on this listing. So I'm going to take that off. If later you find out there is a Schedule B, you call the listing agent, oh, by the way, is there a Schedule B? And they send it over to you, you can add that. I can also show you how to add that in later. So that's fine. Okay. So that's step 1. We're going to hit next. Step 2 is here. That's dates. Again, you can put in dates in here. Contract date, offer date, you know, that sort of stuff. Contract date is it actually doesn't get brought in because it's a contract date of the actual listing. But the offer date that we're putting on today, I can put that in. Irrevocable date, I can put that today as well, for tonight till, let's say, midnight. I can put the closing date in if I wanted to say, yeah, we're asking for a closing in January 16th, for example, my birthday. And that's step 2. Again, leave it blank. If you don't want to put it in here, you can do that. But I like to add some of these things in because it is part of the offer. Hit next. Step 3 is who is participating in this offer. We've got our brokerage that's participating. We've got me as the salesperson. We've got the seller's information. We got the listing brokerage, and we've got the listing brokerage and the listing salesperson. Okay, who's missing? The buyer. So we need to add a new contact, right? They're the buyer. That's very important, so it knows where his signatures go. First name of the buyer is Jeff Whitman, let's say. I don't know. Let's just say that's his name. So you've got anything that has a red means it's mandatory. If I put Jeff's email in, then when I go to Authentisign, it'll already be there, so I don't have to enter it later. So if you happen to know Jeff, it'd be a good idea to put the email in, but it's not mandatory. The other thing is when you start putting or start clicking on any of these fields, some of your browsers, like everybody's browser is different. I use Safari, there could be Chrome, there could be, Explorer. So it has this save feature and they save your information. Don't use it. Never use the automatic fill in because it's just going to mess up things. So if I put this in, it says I live at 275 Park Avenue. That's my email address. If I do that, then it could enter 275 Park Avenue in one of the address fields, and you don't want to do that. So just type in their information, right? And then hit save. So now Jeff Whitman is a buyer.
So if it doesn't come up when you hit on the plus, it doesn't come up the option of the buyer.
So when you add, the question is if you hit add and you create a new transaction contact, you will definitely have a type at the top that will say buyer to answer the question.
Said it wasn't working, so I went back and I'm back into transaction type. Can I get back into adding buyer after?
Yeah, so the question is, and it's a good question, let's say something goes wrong. Let's say it spits you out, okay? So let's say all of a sudden I click on the wrong thing. It is automatic saving. So now I'm somewhere else and I say, well, I need to get back to where I was before. I always like to go either back into transactions or you can go to your dashboard. Okay. This is a quick way because that was the last thing I worked on in the transactions is to go into there and you can click on the purchase of Lamar and it'll bring you back to the transaction dashboard. And then you can hit, if you've, you can hit wizard again up at the top right hand side and get you back into the wizard and then go to where you need to go to, right? Step 2 of 5, 3 of 5. I mean, you just have to sort of mind map yourself. I always call it a mind map because your head, as soon as you know how to use the system, knows exactly where to go. I know where to go. You guys are going to take some time to, understand where to go if you were to be bumped out or something like that. It just takes time. But it is fairly intuitive to know, where to go. Because essentially, remember what I said from the beginning, you only really need to know 2 areas to go, transactions and Authentisign. If you go into transactions, all your transactions are there. If you go into Authentisign, all your Authentisign signings will be there. So if I go into transactions, there's the Lamar, you click on it, okay? And then there's all the things on the right-hand side that you could be doing, including the wizard. And I like to finish the wizard so I can get all the information in there. Right? So there's step 2 of 5, 3 of 5, and then there's all the people I've already entered. Now, if there's more than one buyer, add another buyer. So Jeff's got a wife, create a new transaction contact. That's also a buyer, and her name's Marie Whitman. Hit save. So now I've got 2 buyers. The question that a lot of people ask, well, what happens if you have 3 buyers, right? You actually do, after 2, have to start combining in TransactionDesk. That's one, I'm going to say it's kind of a default in this, or a fault in the system that they'll probably correct in the future. But currently, if you add more than one buyer, it's going to take the first 2 buyers and then because there's no field for a 3rd buyer. Okay. So what you would have to do if there's 3, you go to Marie, edit, and then you could say if it's Marie and, so you go Marie and Jeff. Okay. And you could do it that way. Maybe just take out Whitman there. So it's Marie and Jeff Whitman. That will work. If they've got a different last name, then you would be adding it differently, right? You would figure it out based on, what their last names are and everything. You could add 2 last names. You can do all that kind of stuff. Or you can leave it. Yes. Question.
You just put right from the beginning, Jeff and Marie Whitman.
You can do that for the purpose. So the question is, can you just from the beginning have one buyer and call it Marie and Jeff Whitman. The reason why I don't want to do it that way if you have two is because when you do Authentisign down the road, you have to break them apart again, because Authentisign is going to need two signatures like separate from each other. Okay, and that's completely doable. Like there's definitely a workaround for all this, and you can definitely do it. So right now, what I'm going to do is keep it with buyer Marie Wilson and hit save. So everybody's in there. The other thing that sometimes happens, and Treb is one of the ones that does it, Treb specifically only has one field for seller's name. Okay. So if there was two sellers on this, it would come in actually as the seller. See, this is Gene Moore. It would come in saying Gene Moore and Michael Smith as one seller. And of course you could edit that, create two. So you could go in there, edit it, right? And then just make that Gene Moore and then add another seller and make it whatever I said his name was. So yes, I mean, the whole idea here though is to make sure that that you have somebody designated as the buyer, the seller, the cooperating salesperson, and the brokerage. And this is the place to do it. It will allow you to do that in the actual offer as well. So if you do add a buyer to the offer within the offer, it'll create a contact for you. So, you know, there is ways to do that as well. So it's pretty intuitive. Just make sure that in the contact section, if you're finding it's kind of wonky, this is where you'd fix it. If you're splitting somebody up or combining, if there's 4 buyers or something like that. Okay. The next step is the forms. Now we've entered in every form that we feel is important that you use. There are a couple in here that you probably will not use, but we want it there because, you know, in a lot of situations you will use it, right? You don't have to use every form, but one thing I'm going to do, I just wanted to check today, is to see, for example, your individual information record, and I did do it here. I added 2. Okay. I also found out how to rename this, so I can say individual 1, individual 2. I'll do that later. But yes, you have 2 individual information records, because if there's 2 people on the offer, which this one does, I'm going to need to add 2 FinTrack forms. Okay, so forms are all okay. If there is a form that's not on here that you need, like let's say a real estate agent's involved and you have to do a disclosure of acquisition for property, like you have to disclose the fact there's a realtor involved, then you can add any form you want by just hitting the add. And you can add that form now, you can do it later. And of course, you've got all the forms from the different boards as well, which is really nice too. Obviously for us, most of them will be in the Ontario Real Estate Association. So that's the main set of forms. You can search by forms. So acquisition, or let's say disposition, it doesn't matter. Like you can search by name up at the top right-hand side. So there's the disclosure of interest for disposition or acquisition if you type in acquisition. It also knows the form numbers if you happen to know the form numbers. If I'm looking for form 822, just type in 822 and there it comes up. So it's very good for finding forms. We'll close out of there. But that's step 405. Then you hit the last step, which is documents. Documents is where you can add Schedule B. This is a bad example because unfortunately, this listing, who's it with? This is with Royal LePage RCR, which I happen to know has a Schedule B, right? RCR has Schedule B, I believe. So I don't know why she hasn't attached this to the listing, but I would give, in this case, Liz Bach a call and say, can you send me your Schedule B? What I would end up doing is coming into here, and under the document section, I would add one and I would upload the Schedule B here and call it Schedule B. Yeah, so if somebody asked to say this again. So this is an opportunity, the document section's an opportunity for you to add something that's not a form that's attached. So somebody else's Schedule B is not going to be a form in our system because we don't know what their Schedule B is. You'll have to get it from them. Most times it's attached to the listing, whether it be Matrix, whether it be Treb. This is Treb. It should be up here as a scheduled attachment. So what we do, I'm going to pretend that this is Schedule B, right? And if we do that, I would just download it to my computer. So hit the little download button. Sure enough, it will pop up on my desktop. I can even call it Schedule B here. Maybe put Lamar, so it knows it's for Lamar. Hit save. And then I would go back into the document section. I'd add that. And how I add it is in through here. It says drag and drop, or you can double click. It's actually double click to upload. So I'll double click that, and there's Schedule B. I'll select it, and it uploads it, and there it is. Now it's in the transaction. Now I can send this off, print it off. I can do anything I want with it. As we know, if I click on it, it's not Schedule B, it's Form 801, but I just wanted to show you the process of how to add a Schedule B to your transaction. Okay, this was the wizard. This is the top right-hand side. This is the steps. It makes it a lot easier for somebody to go through the steps and do everything you need to do, rather than what we're going to do now, which is just go right into the transaction and start playing with it, which is the next step. So your dashboard is the first thing you see when you click on the transaction. And the dashboard for the transaction, remember there's two dashboards. There was the original one we went into, which is just for the whole system. And then this is the transaction dashboard, specifically for 1022 Lamar. Okay, so this is the transaction dashboard. Gives you some information. I find this unuseful. I don't see this being a very useful section. Until I play enough with it, maybe someday it will be useful for me, but for the most part, the details of the transaction, I don't look at that often. I do look at the forms. This is one of the most important sections because I need to fill in the forms to print off and have somebody sign, for example. The document section is where we find Schedule B, right? It's also going to be when we have everything signed, I'm going to upload it to here. I'm going to actually add that. So when it comes back signed and done, I'm actually going to add it to this document section. This is going to, it can be and is going to be your digital paperless transaction solution. Instead of keeping all your stuff in let's say a folder, which I'm sure some of you still do, but you can now add anything signed into the system and throw away your folder. Rico sees this as a fully functionable document management solution. So this is all compliant. You don't need to keep paper records anymore. You can do it all online. You can still keep it if you want to, but this is your solution. So anything that's done, you just add into here. Okay. Okay, what I'm going to do, so the question was, they had questions on step 4. Just because this is being recorded, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get through this and watch what I'm doing, because a lot of times in class, what you're doing is you're doing your own and then you get stuck and then you miss out on some of the other things. So watch the remainder, and then I'm going to stop recording, and then I can answer all the questions and get you guys through it as a workshop afterwards, okay? Not a problem. So we're on the transaction dashboard again. I do want to show you guys a really cool feature, and it's more for just to be recorded as well, so that you guys can go back and if you know, how did we do that again? I really want to show this because this is a neat way to get documents into here. Okay. So what this means is, let's say Liz Bach emailed us the Schedule B. So it's in our emails. Okay. So I could go into my emails, pull off the email. Up on the right-hand side, there is a special email address. There it is. That's a special email address. What that allows me to do, and I want to show you guys. So what this allows me to do, copy it. Anything that I email to this address that has a PDF in it goes into this document. Okay, so if I was to open my email client, I'm just going to go into my emails for a second. And I was to email okay, let's get out of there. Oops. Sorry, I'm going to do that one more time. Where is that? Sorry. I just want to show you. So if I cut and paste that email, that email that is cut and paste is actually the email for that transaction. And if I was to attach a Schedule B to this and send it to that, it'll show up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to attach it. Now I'm going to find it here. Let's say add mail, attach file. Okay. Let's say I was to attach a Schedule B. There's a Schedule B. Okay. I can call it whatever I want. Doesn't matter. Let's call it B. Okay. And hit send. What that is going to do, this is a great feature that allows that PDF to come up, and it's going to show up as soon as I can find out where there we are. That will show up here in about 1 minute. I've timed it. We were timing it earlier. So about a minute from now, this is going to be in our document section. Okay. I've already got a Schedule B in there because we did that before. So let me take out this one because it's the wrong one. Okay. Just going to go back into Lamar for a second. We're going to wait. We don't have to wait. We can go on, but this is going to show up in here as an attachment. That allows you to later on, let's say you were to do a full sales info sheet and all the documents and everything that you scanned in, you can email it to that email address and it automatically goes into your transaction. So you don't have to bring it in different ways. Or you could just hit F+ and upload it from your computer. I did want to show that today just because it's a neat new feature. And I really think that that's beneficial. Any email, you could just forward it to that email address. It's different. Yes, the question is that email different for every transaction? Yes. So any transaction I go into, let's say I go into an old transaction. So any one of these, let's say I go into Adams Road, will have up at the top right-hand side its own specific email address. Okay. And then that's the one that I would forward it to get it into the transaction. It's been about a minute, so I'm going to guess that that's probably in there now. And it is. So in the document section, I have the B PDF, which is, now just so you know, it will also take your email. So you delete the one that's wrong, which is this one. So delete that. But it will bring in the PDF of the residential lease. There it is. So remember I emailed it to so that now it showed up. Okay. That, I know that seems a little advanced for most, but I did want to put that on the recording because you guys can go back and look at that later. Okay. Yeah. And I'll help you guys with this one as a one-on-one as soon as we're done the recording. So I'm going to go back into Lamar and we're going to do the fun part, right? We're going to start filling in all the forms, printing them off, signing them with our clients. So that's in the form section. You can click on go to forms or you can click on the form you want. That's up to you. If you go with a click on the forms, they're all listed in here. They're also, there's a clickable link on the side here, right? We went to dashboard already. We've been in Wizard. There's contact. This is the form section. This is this right here. So the question is, can you change the order of the forms? Yes. I put them in the order. I mean, we can change as a default too, but I put them in in the order of sort of importance. The first form that we're supposed to sign at the earliest convenience is you're working with a realtor form. So it's first. The other thing that you should be doing is taking ID right up front. Everybody forgets this, and then it's always, you won't get paid until you fill it in. Do it up front. You know who their people are. So this is your FinTrack form. Then you've got your buyer representation. Then you got your agreement of purchase and sale, your co-op confirmation. This probably should be first. You've got offer summary, receipt of funds, et cetera, et cetera. So as it goes down in order. So we'll start at the top, click on working with a realtor, and it goes into the form. You start filling it in. In this case, the names of the people, it's the only form that doesn't bring in the names. So you'll put in the names of your people, which happens to be, what do we got? Marie and Jeff Whitman. Okay. Was it? No, that was our buyers. Those are our buyers. So I can just print this now. Up at the top, these are different things you can do with your file section. There's got a lot of stuff in here. This is where you would either save it, print it, email it. You can do a lot in this area. Keep in mind, all the forms, everything we do is automatically saved. So I've now kind of got into the habit of not having to save every single time that I go into things, as I did in the past. It's just habit that, you know, you want to save as you go, right? So you don't have to save it. That's okay. But you should print it if you're sitting in front of them and you want to print it, right? So you'll be using the print function. You could be emailing it. I wouldn't suggest it because you should be sitting in front of your people doing or printing it and bringing it to them, or however you do your business. Okay, so that you can do that all in this section. You could even stand alone. Let's have them sign this through a sentence. That's a sign. Like, there is that feature, but I would say for the most part, you'd be going in here and printing it. Then you go to the next form. So you click on transaction forms. You did working with a realtor, go into the FinTrack form now. This is the FinTrack form. You start putting your information. Some fields, and it's just like web forms where some fields were filled in and some weren't. In this case, they weren't. So everything was verified. So start entering it, right? Full legal name of the individuals. Again, I thought the working with a realtor was the only one that didn't bring in this information, but it looks like this form as well is not bringing it in. I know why that is the case. It's because every board is so different that anyway, but regardless, Jeff Whitman. Also, the fact is that one of these has to be filled out for each buyer. So Jeff, put in their address, the date of birth, principal business. By the way, principal business is not just manager. It's not just, you know, works at Staples, right? Be specific, right? So if they're a salesperson at Staples, even if you put in Newmarket, I mean, they want more information. Okay, so please do that. Type of identification, license, et cetera, et cetera. We all know that. We do also know that now, as it comes to down further, client risk, we need to put in specifically known the person for how long, 5 years. You can say it's a Canadian resident for 20. You can, all your information you put in here. And you fill it in. File, print, move on. That's how you do it, right? File, print, move on. Next transaction form. If you had to fill in the next FinTrack for his wife, Marie, do that. Then you get to the buyer representation agreement. Same idea. So it's added the information of our brokerage in there already. Both the buyers are in there already. You don't have their address yet, so don't choose from one of these, whatever you do. Put in their actual street number, street name, municipality, postal code, commencing on, put the dates in, property type, geographic location. You guys know how to fill in these forms. This is not something that's new. Obviously, the rest of it as well, all the way down to the point where you've done everything. File, print, move on. Confirmation cooperation. Jeff Whitman, Marie Whitman, sellers in there, as you can see. 1022 Lamar Avenue, that's all good. If you know that they're being represented by the listing brokerage, you put in the information just like you would in any other system. We're the cooperating broker, 2.5%, etc. Right? So we know how to fill that in as well. Go back to the top, hit file, print, move on to the next form. Now we're in the agreement of purchase and sale. And this is where things get more interesting. You're going to do the same sort of idea as the other forms and filling in the information, make sure everything's accurate. And then we'll do the clauses. We do have a question.
You go into print every time you finish the document. Can you do the print at the very end?
So this is a great question. Yes, you can. The question is can you decide, let's say you decide, no, I'm just going to fill everything in and then print at the end. That's a great question. The nice thing is they've updated the system, because before you'd have to actually print individually. Now you can actually go into your forms, select everything you want printed at the end, go to the top, basket, print. It prints all the forms. Okay? You can email the forms. You can even save them, copy them, download a zip file with them, send them all out for signature. This is a great feature. So it's a good question. So hit close, close, back into the agreement of purchase and sale. Okay. So the agreement of purchase and sale dated the 5th of November, 2019. We've got Jeff and Marie, we got Jean, the real property. And this is where we notice certain things are missing. So fronting on the north side, for example, of Lamar, right? We know how to do this. City of, in this case, it's the municipality of Newmarket. You've got the frontage that I put in earlier. You can see how that worked. The legal description didn't come in from the listing. I always like having my listing up on the other area so I can go in and cut and paste. Where's my legal description? There it is. It's a very crummy legal description, to be honest with you. So you may want to fix that. Look in the Geo Warehouse to fix that. Lot 27 plan 576 isn't probably good enough. It's okay. It's not great. 700,000 upon acceptance, $10,000 deposit. They leave this blank on purpose because it could go to different places, but in this case, they're the listing brokerage. They are a Royal LePage RCR. Okay, that's where the check will be made payable to. We've got Schedule A. We said there wasn't a B, but then we found out there was, so we'll add that B into there. Irrevocable by the buyer until, let's say, 11 o'clock tonight, p.m. on the 5th day of November. As you can see, it's fill in the blanks. My chattels that I put in there are there if you want to make some changes. I know this is kind of sloppy right now, but you can make some changes there. You could say excludes the, I don't know, bathroom mirrors. You can add that in. Rental items, if there's a hot water tank, you might want to put that. Okay, and HST's included in the price. Title search, I'm going to put a date that makes sense. Residential. Go all the way down, entering the stuff that you need to enter. All our information's already in there. And this is the fun part of Schedule A. Oh, you guys get to see how to change the font today, which is nice. I don't like this font. Does anybody not, or does anybody like this font? It's not great. Yeah, so I have chosen a font in a size that I like. I can show you guys both how to change it in this document and also how to change your settings moving forward. So everything, anytime you go in there, you'll never see this font again, which is brutal. It looks like a typewriter that they used back in 1982, and it's too small. So you're gonna go up to the left-hand side under fonts. You're gonna change the style to Helvetica, and you're gonna change the sides to 10. And I just think that's much nicer. Would you agree? Sorry? Yes. At the top, again, there's a repeating. Fonts, style, Helvetica, and size of the text is 10. There is settings. I don't want to go into leave here, but there is settings in your setup. Okay. Then I'm going to show you how at the end to change it so you'll never have to change that again. Okay. I've put in requests to change it across Canada because I don't know any board or anybody who would like this font, to be honest with you. Anyway, so that's good to go. So what we've done with the clauses is we've given you clauses that should be in every offer. There's no reason, and I haven't been convinced by anybody yet to why you wouldn't include all these clauses into an offer. There could be some obscure reason, but why not give it to you the way it should be, and then you guys can add to it or take it away if you want to take it away. But there's no sense in you guys adding this every single time to do an offer, or et cetera. So, and I know you guys like templates back in in the past, we've done templates as well for web forms, right? And in the web forms templates, you guys copy, and it's good that it's set up basically the same every single time the way we've done it here. opposed to trying to make a duplicate copy of something from a past agreement, which is what people are doing in web forms currently. I used to do it all the time, right? You duplicate the last offer you did, and it's similar, just to save time. Well, we've done this, so we've added all into you. So here's your balance of the purchase price. This works like a Word document. So if you need to add in, which you will, not later than 11:59, for example, PM on, come up with a date. I know there are people that want to use a different clause here that says 5 days after acceptance. Don't try and speed things up by doing that. Don't try and skip a step by doing that. You will find yourself in a situation down the road where somebody's saying, well, no, that doesn't count. A business day is this. Yeah, but it's, in Schedule B what business days are, or it's in this offer what Schedule B. So there's that argument. There's also an argument that it's 5 days after acceptance. Well, when does that 5 days start? Does it start at the confirmation of acceptance? Does it start at the end of the business day or end at the end of the business day? For example, 5 days in financing will take us up to, let's say, Friday. And is it Friday at 5 o'clock because that's when it was signed? Or is it Friday at 12 o'clock at the end of the day? So there's a lot of confusion when it comes to 5 days after acceptance. That's why I'm suggesting, the reason why we put in this, to come up with an actual day. If Friday is November the 12th, then put November 12th at 11:59. It's specific. We know exactly when this condition is due, and I think that's the right way of doing it. The next one is conditional upon the subject property. Same idea, right? So it's 11:59. If you keep yours the same, similar to 11:59, I mean, I guess we could. No, I think everybody changes that. So okay, and this is the 12th day of November, right? 2019. So it's just a fill in the blanks. I don't know if you were to happen to want to cut and paste, you can cut and paste, right? You can highlight, you can hit cut, and just so everybody knows, you can redo this if you make a mistake. To cut on a normal keyboard, it's either Control X, or on a Mac, it's Command X. And to redo something, it's Command Z or Control Z, or just right click, right? Cut, undo. So for the most part, every computer will be able to do that. If you want to move it, if you want to take it out. There is 2 Schedule A's. So we have the 2 conditions: financing, home inspection, survey clause, the visit clause, warrants and represents the chattels clause, no work orders or deficiencies. We put personal belongings in there, included in broom swept condition. Warrants that there has been no growth of manufactured illegal substances. Also that there's no psychological stigmas. I think that should be in every offer, to be honest with you. We want to see if somebody was murdered in there, or somebody was suicide, or something that happened, psychological stigmas. If it had happened and we put that in there, they have to disclose it. That's where that comes in. And you don't want to be in a situation where somebody 10 days after they buy the house find out somebody was committed suicide in there, and they want to be, I don't know, sue somebody, so we want to make sure that's in every offer. There's that disclosure about the banking and business and working days, just in case we don't want to get into any scenario where we're not sure what constitutes business or banking day. So those are all the clauses already done for you. If you want to add another clause in, which is fine, let's say you have a pool in there, or septic, or some other ones. You get septic system, you got pool, you've got well. These are other things that could be in the deal. So you just go to the top under clause section, and clauses are all in there. Just give it a second or two. There we go. Personal clauses, so you can add your own. In your setup, you have the ability to add your own clauses. Office clauses, we've added in any specific office clause that we have to add. And then we've got our system clauses, which are more specifically arrears clauses, right? You can search by just clicking on them and looking for the right clause, right? Let's say it has to do with a pool, so I'd be looking for something to do with a pool. So keep going, keep going, keep going. Swimming pool. These are their swimming pool clauses. I could choose one, right? If you want to see the preview, just click on it. It previews the clause. Close it. That's what I'm adding in. If you want to put 2, you can put 2. If, for example, you want to see anything to relate to a swimming pool clause, maybe you can search by swim, you know, if that's in the clause. So there are more clauses to do with swimming pools in other areas of our clause sheets, right? So there's maintenance, you've got bylaw compliance, you've got French, you've got everything in there. So winterization. So you can search by the name, maybe a clause number like L16. If you happen to know the clause number, you can, which you won't. Maybe the front desk would, but you could do it that way as well. So searching is often helpful. We have a question.
The icons are along the left-hand side there. What do those exactly represent? Client?
Yeah, so this would be a company clause. So this is a Century 21 Heritage Group clause. This one is an office clause, which is also Century 21. So company and office. That's interesting. We've got both areas. Yeah, no. It looks like we've added in 2 different sections. We keep in mind we have 2 systems. We've got Treb and Korea. So we may have had in Treb and Korea, and it's just doubling up. I don't know. But anyway, they're there. So, and yes, so the icons will mean different things. If I typed in lawyer, I don't know if that, yeah, so there's the lawyer clauses, client. Yeah, I don't know why they're called client. It has to do with ARIA's clauses. Yeah. It's a good question though. So anyway, so let's say, yeah, we wanted some swim clauses, right? So we'll type in swim, decide on which ones. Let's say we do bylaw compliance as well as good working order, as well as winterization. Hit OK. There they are. Just so you know, you do want it, like if you want a clause to be entered in a certain area, you know, go over there, tell it where you want it, then put in the clause, right? So if this has to do with, I don't know, sewer. So if you want to put a sewer clause in, hit OK. Let's see if it goes in the right area. There. Where did it go? Anybody know? It did go somewhere, right? Let's try that again. Clause. Sewer. Selected. Good. Basket. Hit OK. Didn't like that, did it? Yeah, I'm going to look into that. That's the first time I've ever had a problem with that. So I'm going to look into why. It could be that it wants it to go. Let me just try it down here. It could be just that clause. Keep using the same one. Yeah. For some reason, if it didn't fit, that's what it is. For example, I only gave it a small amount of space. It's possible that it needed more space to enter in. But anyway, it does work. Yeah, it's weird. Interesting. First time I've seen that. So that's how you add in. Now, here's a question. If I was to add in 3 more clauses here, so we're going to add 3 more clauses. I'm going to test the system now because in the past, what it'll do is it'll start shrinking your font in order to fit them in, and we don't necessarily want to do that. So let's say we'll just add 3 more clauses here. Hit OK. See what that did? It added it to this schedule, and it started going off the page. So what will happen is when we go to print this, it shrinks it to fit. So instead, what we need to do is add a page. Okay, add the page. It'll create another page. Then you can cut and paste or put the clauses in the next page. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We've added a page. Go down to the bottom. There's page 2. There's page 3 that's blank. Currently, the way the system's set up, it's not intuitive to go on to the next page yet. They will fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go there. I'm going to hit cut. And I'm going to paste. Okay. Keep in mind, I'll answer any individual questions as soon as we get there. Any questions from this standpoint at this point? I'm going to take a few questions. If not, I'm going to show you a couple of the other things to do, because essentially now we've figured out how to construct the offer, print the offer, how to print all the pages at the end if you want to print out the pages at the end. If you wanted to send it all out for signature, you could do that by just going to the transaction forms again, selecting the ones you want to go out for signature, clicking on the basket, and going to Authentisign, which is just sign into Authentisign or send to Authentisign. We want to send these to Authentisign. Okay. We're not going to do that right now, but that's it. Yeah, at this point in time, we've gone through forms, filled them in, and printed the offer. So that's pretty much the majority of creating an offer. I do want to show you, if you were to do a listing really quickly, it's the same process. Listings, similar, very, very similar. So right now, if we were to get out of here, go to any one of the, like this is the dashboard, for example, that when we logged into, we saw, right? This is a member dashboard. The member dashboard allows you to just go into anything that you were working on recently, right? So that was the last agreement of purchase and sale that we were just in, the form. The last form we were just in is there. It was also the transaction we were in is 1022 Lamar. So it's just a quick way to get back into where we were at. Any of the documents that we've recently uploaded, and then any of the signings we've done. So it's just a good dashboard to go to. Currently, we want to do a new transaction and do a listing. So if we hit create transaction, call it the listing for 275 Park Avenue, right? I'm going to choose what kind of listing it is. And in this case, it's a residential freehold listing for sale. So that's the right one to choose. If it was for lease, I choose this one. If it was an assignment, you choose this one. Condo, for lease, for sale, assignments, commercial, etc. So everybody get that? If you're part of a different board, or the different boards that we have is TREB, as well as we have Hamilton Burlington board. When you go into the listing for the residential freehold, we do have the MLS data sheet for the Hamilton board in there as well. So it'll come in. We would not be importing any data because currently we're doing a listing that's new. So we're not going to select the source. We are the listing salesperson. And yeah, we can use the wizard again if we want and hit create. Essentially, it's not doing much in the wizard, but we'll do that anyway. And what it's doing right now is combining all the forms that we're going to need to do a listing, and it'll create the listing transaction. There we are. This is where we can input some more information in there. If we do, I believe at this point in time that the like street number, street name, etc., should go into our MLS data form automatically. So 275, for example, Park Avenue. Cities in Newmarket. Province, postal code, you could do all that. You could put in any information that you know about the property. If you're listing it, for example, at 850,000, you can put that in there. Okay, and hit next.
Aaron,
yes.
We don't have an MLS number yet for our list.
We do not have an MLS number at this point.
It won't allow you to continue.
It won't allow you to continue if you put in that it's going to come from a board. You got to go back up and it's not coming from anywhere. So you're not inputting. The question is, yeah, during the initial questions, just say that it's not part of a board, right? You're not bringing in the information from an MLS. Transaction dates, well, you could do a contract date if you want to put in the contract date. Let's say you're signing it today. Keep it blank if you don't know when you're signing it, but if you want to put that in, you can. And then you hit next and just kind of go through the contacts. If you happen to know, I've actually entered in back end, front desk and back end in there. Is I'm playing with some of the contacts so that we can have email addresses already in there for our front desk and back end if you're submitting it, paperwork and stuff. So don't worry about that at this point in time. I'm just playing with that. But it does have our brokerage, the listing salesperson was yourself. If you want to add in this would be good to add in your sellers. So add a new transaction contact. So if the seller happens to be Tim Beechwood, I don't know, it's Tim Beechwood, and hit save, you can add the seller's name in as well. And then you get to next. These are all the forms. So again, you're going to need working with a realtor, the listing agreement, MLS data form for both the Toronto board, or if you're in the Hamilton board, it's there as well as the FinTrack. I only put one FinTrack form in here. I'm going to add the other one, just so you know. It was pointed out that when I did my listings, I only did the one FinTrack ID. Well, I'll get that fixed. But all the other information's in there, including, you know, stuff like your agent sales information sheet. That's in the other one as well, just so you know. So when your deal's done, you can fill that in. You know, there's lots of forms, obviously mortgage verification, residential information checklist, Schedule A to the listing if you're, you know, doing a reduction in the commission if you sell it yourself, etc. So step 4 of 5 is the forms. Hit next. Here's your documents, and guess what? I already put the Schedule B in there for you, so it's already there. Okay. Yeah, we have a question. Listing for lease.
And you have already, you know, all the conditions and clauses that you like to use with your leases.
Yes.
You can create that here and
Yes.
send it from here to
Yes.
someone who preparing an offer, and they can just upload it there.
Yeah. So the question is if you have a lease and you're doing a lease listing and you wanted to do your typical lease clauses in there so that they can download your list so that they can add it to their offer, then yeah, absolutely, you can do that in the system. You can set it up as a template if you wanted to for yourself. If you want to do your own Schedule A to the lease agreement, that's the form that you would have in there. So you would go into just adding an individual form. So you would add an individual form and then you save it as a template as soon as you're done. So put in all the stuff. So maybe we can play with that after, you know, but that definitely is one of the great features of this, is that you can, you know, save something and then you can send it, you can attach it to a listing. You can do all that for sure. So as soon as you're done the step 5, you hit done and it creates that transaction dashboard for your listing. Now, listing at 275 Park Avenue. Here's all the forms. Okay. And we can start entering, clicking on those. Just so you know, there are checklists in here. And currently it's not an active part of the system for you guys yet. I'm working on this as we speak. The checklists are going to be for deal submission. So as soon as you do have a deal and you add it into documents, you'll be able to submit them as a checklist item to say, yes, I've got, you know, all the different items that need to be done on a checklist. So this is what it currently looks like. So we have a listing. This is what the front desk would do. They would go into residential sales listing. And then they would say, do they have a working with a realtor? Yes, we'll attach it. Do we have a sales sheet, so MLS data sheet, etc. This is what the front desk will be doing. So it'd be nice for you guys to see, you know, what's been submitted to the back end as well as the front end for listings and deals. And so that's what it's going to eventually do. But we're still working on that system. So let's go back to the transaction dashboard, and the forms are all there. So let's see if some of the information went through. We've got the Schedule A. We got the let's go to forms in general, just so we get it. There we go. So it's in order. Working with the realtor, the listing agreement, the MLS data sheet. Let's just jump into the MLS data sheet and have a look at it. This is Trebs, obviously. It does have the Hamilton board as well. And hopefully some of the data that I did in the wizard has been populated on here. And it has. You know, we've got the street address already in there. Some of the other stuff may not be, but there's the list price. I missed a 0 when I did it. 850,000. Expiry date, there's the contract date that I already told it. The seller's name that I already told it. But this is, you know, how you fill it in. It's good. It's great. It's really a good way to fill in a data sheet without doing it the old way, which I used to do, which is handwritten, and try and hand that into the front desk, a handwritten data sheet, and then they can't read my writing. So that's the old way. Any questions on that? I mean, it's just straightforward. You save it, you print it, you send it. That is all the stuff that you'd want to do with your paperwork. You can do through the system. It allows you to do that. It's really an easy system to use now. I mean, I say now, at the beginning, there was some stuff we worked through with, all the different form fields and everything, but it's really quite a good system, and allows you to really manage your paperwork a lot better. So that is in a nutshell. And I promised you guys I'd show you how to do the fonts and change them on your system. So if you go down to the setup on the left-hand side, there's a few things you can set up yourself. Now, mine might look a little different than yours because I do have broker stuff, but for the most part, you'll be able to change in type management. Okay, so if you go into type management, under, let me just remember, I think it's no, it's not, maybe not type management. I was wrong again. Program settings. Yes, that looks better, doesn't it? Under document settings. Nope. Form settings. Yes, there we go. So under your settings, go to the program settings and then into form settings. That is where you're going to change the size to 10 and your default font to Helvetica and hit update. And your settings will now stay the same. And yes, that is it's a big thing to change.
Can you change if you would like to add your, say, cell phone number?
Yeah, so I was going to show you that as well. Under preferences, which is the first thing you want to go into, your user information is in there. If you need to change some of your stuff, like cell phone number, for example, to add in there, you can do that. Okay. So you can change some of that. You can also do things like email signatures. So when you're sending emails, you'll have your email signature already in there. I should copy mine over. I'll do that later. And our branding as well. So if you want to do, an email banner, for example, you can do that here. A personal photo of yourself as well as the company logo. You can add into all these as well. It just makes it a little more personalized with your emails. So that's in the settings section. There are some other stuff that's pretty neat. I know they're working on a team or share group. I haven't played around with this too much, but essentially you're going to be able to add, let's say you had a team called the best team. I think I haven't actually tested this yet, so we'll see how it goes. So we'll hit a save as a group. So it's called the best team. You can automatically share transactions or you can individually share transactions. So let's say Gazella. Okay. Now she's got two profiles. Everybody has two. One's going to be transaction, one's going to be Korea, one's going to be the web forms, and one's going to be Treb. And unfortunately, I can't really tell the difference. I think if you click, no, you can't tell the difference. So just share it with both. So both Treb and Korea, and then you would add the members to your team and then give them permissions. So they can either read everything, they can write everything, or give them full permissions, or even to allow them to impersonate you. So this is great for assistants, for example, if you have an assistant or a team member that's doing your offers for you, or et cetera, right? There's lots of different abilities there for team members. So you can remove the member. Anyway, so I thought I'd kind of show some of the different settings that is there as well. They're always making improvements and updates to the system. I sit on a board to help do that as well. So if you have any suggestions, welcome to hear it. I'll make those suggestions. There's always already a few that I put in there. They're also always completely updating. So there's going to be, a year from now, maybe a new look, drag and drop design feel. I mean, they're really quite a big company that's able to, move with the times and everything. And I think that's the reason why Korea has decided to go with them and Treb has decided to go with them. So it's been great. I'm going to stop the recording. If there's actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if there's any questions online first, just to see if you do have a question. You can go to your bar, that the Zoom bar, and just under the chat window, you can just hit chat and ask a question. You could probably even unmute yourself and ask a question if you'd want to do that as well. Does anybody there wants to do that? Anybody in the class want to ask a question? And if not, that's okay. You can ask me later. You can always send me an email, call me. Or next time, come out in class, and then you can do a workshop, which I'm going to sort of help some of the people in class work through some of the stuff that may have been questions as we went. Okay, have a great week. And I'll just stop the video and everything now. There we go. End meeting.